Already, we'd appreciate it if you could just subscribe to us on YouTube. It means the world to us. What's going on, Terrence?
Yeah, doing well. I hope you're doing well. Jake, how are you? All my friends that are speaking and listening, how are you guys? I just got in. Obviously, I know what the topic is about. But Jake, you're kind of in that enviable position to maybe comment on this. But you mentioned Derek Carr. We're all talking about Lamar Jackson. Do you really think the Jets, as they're constituted right now, are like a quarterback away? Because to me, I think Paul hit it on the head. Like, yeah, if you want to get a Carr or you want to get somebody, you might, a lot of us are just, we just want to get to the playoffs. And I agree with that because, you've been waiting 12 years. But does Derek Carr get you to the promised land, or wasting too much cap space or draft capital on a somewhat still a flawed team when it comes to middle linebackers and safeties? On the defense and also receivers besides Garrett Wilson. Does it do something where maybe even if you do well, is there a slippage like the Rams had after that Super Bowl hangover, which as a guy who follows the Rams, I guess you're glad you won the ring, but but giving up 3 first rounders for Lamar, basically. Is that just a quick fix and we hope we get it, but then over the course of 3 or 4 years, it basically depletes the talent level of the team, and we might have kind of the Rex years where we have 2 very good years, and then it's a decline where we just basically wind up where we are now. But that was a ramble, but I just wanted to get the context in. You can you and Ray can add some some comments to that.
Yeah, Terrence, I appreciate you as always. Great question. I think in terms of Lamar Jackson, because that's what you asked, I do think, and this is initially, I'm not even kidding, 2 weeks ago, I was all for going after Lamar Jackson because of how well, Joe Douglas has put together this team. And because they've already hit on so many picks. I mean, their recent drafts, they killed it this last draft.
Mm-hmm.
But you can actually use the Rams as an example because, going out and trading all of those picks for guys, yes, FM picks does work. But we are seeing, the Rams, they are over the cap because of 5-6 guys they signed. They are one of the youngest teams in the league. But the problem is, they draft well late in the draft, and that definitely is what has kept them continuously relevant, although this year they were decimated by injury. But the thing is, though, you're not getting a first rounder, second rounder, third rounder. Some cases you are getting a third round, but they haven't had a second or third in a minute. And, if you're not, you get those first round picks away, that's a 5th-year option that's out the door. That's an affordable way to keep really good talent in the building. And, now all of a sudden, it becomes I got to win now. And it starts to kind of, I guess, snowball. With the Jets, I really believe they're a quarterback away. And if you got Lamar Jackson, let's be honest here, I think they could win the Super Bowl. But he would have to stay healthy, which is something that he's shown he can't do.
Right.
For a whole season. That's the first thing. The second thing is that, you run into the issue that we saw with the Rams this year. People kept saying they don't have depth. Well, they had depth. They were decimated by injury. Their stars got hurt. When your stars get hurt, and now you spend all that money and, all those picks and everything, now all of a sudden, where are you at that point? If you have a bad year, now you're in a weird position where you have to decide if you're going to rebuild, reset, whatever you're going to do, you're going to have to do something, And so I think that's a weird position to be in. But the way I see it, and this is why I'm all for Carr, is because I liken the Jets to the year Joe Flacco and the Baltimore Ravens at 10-6 won the Super Bowl. The Jets defense is monstrous, and I really believe they're as good as advertised. I really believe that. And I think if Derek Carr was their quarterback right now, even with the injuries they've had, I think there's a chance they'd be playing this weekend. I really believe
Yep,
that.
and Godwin, I'm going to get to you in 1 second. I just want to make a quick point. Let's not forget, we brought it up earlier. Woody Johnson's one of the owners that love the back pages. What did he say right as the season ended? He said, we're a quarterback away. That's got to make you think he's making a big move. I'm going to get to Godwin, and then we're going to get to Joe and Clark right after that. Go ahead, Godwin. What's up, brother? How are you?
What's up, everybody? I'm doing good, man. Doing good.
How are we doing?
Tennessee will probably wait till after June 1st to probably cut Ryan Tannehill. So Ryan Tannehill may not be an option because they're talking about cap savings and all that stuff.
But they can designate him a June 1st on the first day of the new year. They don't have to wait until June 1st. They can designate it.
Yes.
Do they have to announce that, Paul, or can they keep that in-house? Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, Godwin. I don't mean to cut you off. I just want to have the knowledge. That's all, brother. Go ahead.
Also, Derek Carr is going to have a lot of suitors. The Falcons, there would be the Jets. Let's see who else would be. The Saints would be one.
Maybe the Colts, but I think they're going to draft.
Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So,
And he,
so a lot of people trying to get Derek Carr. That's all I gotta say.
yeah, I totally agree with you. That's why we keep saying the big two that are out there between Carr and Garoppolo. But go ahead, Joey. What's going on, brother? How are you? Joe and Clark.
He's still trying to find Carlos Correa. Joe.
Yeah. Don't do us like that, Paul. Don't do us like that. All right, we're waiting for Joe to come around. Go ahead, Steve.
I'm here.
Oh, all right. Joe, go ahead, bro. Did you find him?
Did I find him?
Carlos Correa. It's what Paul said you were looking for.
No, just commenting on, I guess it was Jake, about the Jets defense. I still, I don't know. I wouldn't say this is a Super Bowl defense. I still feel they need one big-time edge rusher, another linebacker, a fast linebacker, a safety. I still think there's pieces this team needs. I don't think you just plug into Lamar Jackson and you're going to go to the Super Bowl because at least we watch the defense down the stretch and we don't get any turnovers. I mean, we're the worst in football getting turnovers, and then we don't turn these teams over. And we weren't getting to the quarterback late in the year. I don't know if it was. I'm not crazy about Olbrich. I felt like he, once in a while he had to adjust because he never blitzes. Everything's rushing four guys. And when those guys aren't getting there, these quarterbacks might go and throw. So I didn't like that either. I like a little bit more aggressiveness from Olbrich. But the team, look, a quarterback's going to make a huge difference because it changes so many things. I mean, the defense gets demoralized when you're a quarterback and Zach Wilson and you're 3 and out every play, so I understand that. It's going to make a huge difference getting a real competent quarterback in here. I want Carr. That's the guy I'd like to have. I think you put him in, he reminds me almost of like Vinny Testaverde in circa 1998 when he came to the Jets at 34, 33 years old, and everybody thought, okay, veterans are behind him. And he was unbelievable until he, tore his Achilles second year with the Jets. But, I think he could give you something like that, Carr. But, I don't know. I mean, I think he'll be available for the Jets. Lamar Jackson, to me, is I don't like the fact that he makes a living with his legs for the most part. I mean, his game is predicated on running for the most part.
And look at what it's going to cost you. Like Derek Carr, at the end of the day, costs you cap. You're going to be giving away your next 3 years of first-round picks minimum to get him.
The offensive line, we definitely need to draft a top flight of offensive lineman. He's going to be running around like crazy. I want him to. I don't want him running all the time. I want him to be able to throw. I mean, that's the thing. So a lot of things bother me about Lamar Jackson. The fact that his best friend, Brown, the wide receiver, Marquise, what was the guy that ended up going to Arizona? I mean, he couldn't wait to get out of there. I don't know if it was much. I don't know if it was more the offensive scheme.
Brown, yeah.
Yeah, or was that's supposed to be his buddy, but he couldn't wait to go to Arizona. But whatever. I guess maybe he thought he'd get paid there. I don't know. I don't know the situation, but I don't know. To me, the guy I want would be Carr one. Look, in a dream world, I would give up the drafts for Aaron Rodgers. I really feel like I still think that guy has at least 3 or 4 good years left, and big time years left. I mean, he's coming off back-to-back MVPs. And even this year's numbers, which, let's be honest, weren't great, they would still rank in the top 3 all time in Jet history, maybe top 2. And it wasn't even a good year for him. So, the Carr would be the guy, realistically, I think we could get. I don't want Garoppolo. He's hurt too much, and we're on luck. He's going to be hurt, and you know that. And that's all we need. So, this has to happen next year. To me, everybody's on alert. Everybody's job is on the line. That includes Douglas. If this team goes, 7-8, 7-10 next year, they're all gone. We know that. I mean, we don't need a mandate. It's an internal mandate. They know that they're all going to be gone. That's includes, like I said, it includes Douglas too. I mean, even though he had some good drafts, they don't. His records, Ray, you know how you usually check their records. Since he's been there, what is his record? I bet you it's really like 25.
Well, you got to remember his first year here, he was stuck with Adam Gase, so that's really going to taint it. I mean, but Joe, let's be honest here. If we're trying to think from a rationale perspective, the Jets are heading in the right direction. We have been. I mean, Vegas had us at 5.5 wins this year. We were we won 4 games last year. We win 7 this year. Now, next year, I agree. There's unless they sign Carr and he has a catastrophic injury in the preseason, because injuries do happen. We got to remember that. Well, okay. Well, I don't know, because the only reason, Jake, I say he might is it depends who they bring in as offensive coordinator. He could be learning an entirely new scheme here, and training camp, which we've all been to, and I go every year, is so small. So the only chance you have to develop any chemistry, and I'm saying maybe 1 or 2 drives. There's still some coaches that very much believe in that. I know the Rams don't, and McVay sits all his starters in hell. He won a Super Bowl doing it. God bless him. But I think, McVay's been there a while. He has a system that's installed. His players know it. Carr would be coming here, and he hasn't played with anybody on this team. So, a catastrophic injury, it's the only way that I could say it. But I agree with you. We have to make the playoffs next year.
I think it helps that the Giants are playing well now. I think Woody, in fact, he's up behind. He listens. He's on social media. The Giants doing well. God forbid the Giants make a run to the Super Bowl. I mean, as a Jet fan, first of all, I can't stand them because, like I said, my family are all Giant fans, so I got to live with that every year. I always feel like when I'm every Christmas, Thanksgiving, I feel like I'm the redheaded stepchild. They're Yankee and Giant fans, and I'm like the loser. I root for the shit teams. Like, I'm not even allowed to talk. I basically say, don't even talk. Your teams suck. I'm being facetious, but I'm being facetious, but you understand what I'm saying. That's how I feel. And I'm tired of it as a fan. I really am. I talk to a lot of big-time Jet fans. Kenny and I talk, and he's at the point now where he's just so frustrated. We talked today. He's just like, I can't do it anymore, bro. I cannot do it. The money I spend in tickets over here, traveling all over this team, he goes, enough is enough. When is the time going to come? I mean, it's
right.
What the Giants have right now.
We see those graphics.
A year of my life to have that right now. A top coach and a quarterback. I mean, God, Daniel Jones. Oh, I would give 2 number 1s for him right now. I don't even blink.
Joe, we see those graphics, and those graphics that have the Jets. It looks like they're 2 decades away. Last time they made the playoffs.
I saw the picture I posted the other day. A lot of you guys, remember a poll with. It looked like Secretariat at the Belmont poll. We were so ahead of everybody else. It wasn't even funny. It was ridiculous.
Yep. Joe,
the one thing I promised Steve, real quick, but I just don't want to interrupt to address. We have to stop with the unrealistic guys. I mean, I think today you saw what I've always thought, that the Ravens have no intention of letting Lamar Jackson leave. I mean, they are going to franchise him, or they are going to sign him. He's not leaving. And if he was to leave, they would, which I don't believe would ever happen, they would trade him to an NFC team that have a lot better draft position than the New York Jets. I mean, that was never going to happen. I know people dreamed it and they wanted to pretend it. It wasn't ever reality, And the same thing with Aaron Rodgers. Just read his contract, okay? He has one of the most unique contracts I've ever read. He got
if they move him off the roster, they take a $41 million dead cap hit, which they can't afford. But if the Jets were to acquire him, they have to pay him a $58.3 million bonus starting in March. Then in 2024, they have to give him $43 million more. I can do math pretty well. That's $101 million on their cap over a 2-year period. And even if they made some phantom years out of that, it's hard to imagine. I mean, Jackson was never reality. It's very, very hard to imagine unless Rodgers was literally
Benny, you're next.
That money. You know, it's just hard to imagine. So I promised Steve I would address that. Steve and I spoke today. I have to say that. I just want the real. I don't mind talking about other quarterbacks, but let's talk about realistic ones. Even if they stink, Joe, we still got to be realistic, right?
That's right. All right. Before we get to you, Benny, I just want to give a shout out really quick. We're live streaming this on YouTube. If you guys are not subscribed or checking it out, please go over there and subscribe. Benny, what's going on, brother?
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, bro. Steve had his hand up.
No, I know. Steve already spoke. I just want to get to you. Anybody who hasn't spoken, we're gonna get to Steve right after you, bro.
Oh, word. All right, cool. We all truly understand that the LaFleur shit is just so far fetched, and even if there was a slight possibility it could happen, the chances are there's obviously going to be a million teams looking to trade for Lamar Jackson if he's actually made available. You can't wait around for if you still want to do the fucking Rodgers thing. I would love Rodgers. You still want to do that, but we know how Aaron Rodgers is. He's gonna prolong the situation. He doesn't know what the fuck he wants to do. Retire, play somewhere else. He doesn't fucking know. The Lamar Jackson thing, they're gonna franchise tag him. That's gonna go on until at least the draft. All that being said, if you have an opportunity to go get a Derek Carr, since we all know it, if we don't make the playoffs next year, Joe Douglas, you're out. Robert Saleh, you're out. You cannot take no for an answer when going for Derek Carr. He's not the perfect quarterback. He's probably at best 12th best quarterback in the league. He's not gonna win you too many games strictly on his play alone. But due to the circumstances we are in,
we'd be a playoff team last year, Benny. We'd be an absolute playoff team this year if he was our quarterback.
Oh, 100%. But if, let's say the injuries and stuff like that happen, God forbid, but we're missing guys like Brees Hall, we had the same offensive line.
Mm-hmm.
I trust our defense, but I don't think would be, I think we'd have been like the Dolphins. We'd have fucking went in there, we got fucking smacked up.
Yeah, probably.
All that being said, if I'm JD, I don't even allow Carr to hit free agency, do whatever. I'm not gonna wait for the Colts to make an offer of free agency, for all these other teams that could potentially be in line for a quarterback. I'm not allowing it to happen. You got to get aggressive and get him in the door ASAP. Because you do that, and obviously I know he has the no trade clause. But if I'm trying to sell Derek Carr, like we don't have an offensive coordinator yet, but you sell Derek Carr on the dream of you've never had a top 20 defense, I'm giving you a top 5 one. I know you had a good wide receiver in Devontae, but guess what? Now you got Garrett, and now you got a Brees Hall who's going to be back, and I promise you on that first round pick, we're going to get you a tackle to protect your blind side. You assure him that it's going to be okay, and you get Derek Carr in the door yesterday. Like, there's no other option, in my opinion, because if you miss out on him and you're waiting for Rodgers or Lamar, we're going to end up with Ryan Tannehill, and then we know what's going to happen.
Oh, Benny, don't even say that. What's interesting when you say that is everybody keeps saying that the Jets need to draft an offensive tackle in the first round. Let me explain this first. Draft Network, who's very good at what they do, very good. They have three tackles coming off the board prior to when the Jets draft. And then I don't believe there's another one that grades out in the first round. We've seen it in the past where Joe Douglas is willing to move up to get their guy. But when you're moving inside the top 10, you're talking some major capital you would have to give up. Remember, when we went to go get Elijah Vera Tucker, we didn't move in the top 10. When you're moving up there, it's going to cost you. We see how slim Mekhi Becton has looked. He stayed in shape during his rehab. He's owed money. If Brown, now everybody, all these Jet fans are saying Brown's retiring. From what I'm hearing, he's not retiring, leaving $11 million on the table. Maybe he'll take a salary cut and retire, but I think he wants to come back. And if he wants to come back, you have almost $20 million already dedicated to the tackle position. You have Max Mitchell coming back. You have Vera Tucker, who's an all-pro caliber player, coming back. And I think something was going on with Lakin Tomlinson, because I find it very hard to believe that somebody goes from being an all-pro Pro Bowler to one of the worst guards in the league overnight. Something was just off there. And on top of that, we don't have a center at this time. So I don't think drafting a tackle is going to be realistic in this year's draft. That's just coming from my point of view. I could be completely wrong. But go ahead, Steve. I'll get to Steve, and we'll get back to you, Terrence.
Yeah, thanks.
Of course.
Yeah, I guess, I mean, Carter's the one I would want, but being a Jets fan, jaded for decades and everything, there's the part of me that's waiting to hear Baker Mayfield signs with the Jets, or Atlanta gets a big guy and it's Marcus Mariota, or something like that. I pulled up the Tannehill thing while I was waiting, because that came up, and another name that I find as sexy as somebody wearing a house dress and tube socks. But if he's cut before June 1st, it's almost $19 million of dead money, $18 million cap savings. If he's designated as a post-June 1st, it's $9.6 million dead money, and they save $27 million. So he's definitely going to be, a post-June 1st. It doesn't mean that it's going to wait until then. But yeah, we need something, right? I mean, 12 years, no playoffs, and I think Paul and I may be the only ones, in the room that were alive when they won a Super Bowl, and for God's sakes, I was an infant, so I have no memory of it. We just wanted to taste something.
I was 7.
I was a year old, so you got me beat. But
Paul's very old.
Yeah, well, the closer I get.
My mom's belly.
See? But we deserve something, like Joe says, and we want something. But to Paul's point about drafting quarterbacks, and I had texted Paul earlier in the week because I was in a conversation with somebody. Like I said, and I'll keep saying it, we just want to taste. Even, if we get to the dance and, we don't get back there again for decades more. Interesting stat. In the free agency era of the last 30 years, there's only one team that has gone, forget about winning, but it's gone to more than one Super Bowl with signing a free agent quarterback or trading for one, and that was the Denver Broncos and Peyton Manning. Not the Buccaneers with Brad Johnson or Brady, not the Rams with Stafford, and the list goes on and on.
What about
a
free agent
with Kerry Collins?
Oh, more than one.
With Trent
Okay.
Dilfer.
This
It's a humongous list. So, all of that talk about consistency, it hasn't worked out, but God damn, it would just be nice to make it once with whomever.
Yeah, well, we've seen it recently, not multiple, but in the not too distant future, Drew Brees going to New Orleans, from San Diego.
Yeah, I mean, there's a number he was the other one once, and never again. Everybody is jumping on, we got to get Sean Payton. The last time he was in the Super Bowl, McDaniels was a rookie head coach with the Broncos.
Oh, don't get me started, Steve. Do not get me started with Sean Payton. I had to deal with that, with the Rams should trade picks. They should trade Jalen Ramsey for shit. No. Sean Payton has 3 straight 7-9 seasons with Drew Brees. I'm sorry. I do not. I think Sean Payton.
Bounty Gate. I don't think
he's a good dude. I don't want that guy.
No.
He's going to cost you $15 million a year on a first-round draft choice.
And at least one first-rounder. Yep.
Yeah, so you can bail out the Saints because you ruined the Saints cap. Like, you put them $100 million over there. How do you even do that? And then he wants control of your GM. So it's not even realistic for the Jets. But
and if he wanted to get back into coaching so bad,
why not just say, hey, I want my old job back and let them, work out something with Dennis Allen? Right?
Is there a chance he goes to, like, the Texans? Like, start fresh with a new quarterback. He's got the pick of the litter.
Yeah. But right now, he's backpedaling on all of his words because originally he didn't want the Broncos. He wanted an LA job. Well, that ain't happened. Okay? So now, I like Russ. I like Kyler. Oh, good conversation. Although it doesn't look like it's going to be Houston. There was something that came out today, and I still think Houston's probably going to go with John Gannon from the Colts, but from the Eagles, rather. But yeah, anyway,
Steve, why should he? Steve, let him just wait out a year. Then there's no compensation after this year. Oh, there is one. I'm sorry. They have him for one more year. I take that back. He's on the Saints payroll till 24 or after 24. Okay. Yeah.
Yep. So, of course, they want to maximize it now. But anyway, we got off topic. I'm sorry about that.
No, it's all good. It's all a great discussion. We know how much Jake loves Sean Payton and wish McVay left and was traded there.
There are so many live streams and videos of me literally, like, so against the idea of the Rams hiring Sean Payton or that whole Sean McVay thing. But, no, I just wanted to bring up, though, because, we were talking about the tackles, right, and drafting a tackle. It's kind of a weak linebacker draft, at least weaker than we've seen in the past with, Patrick Queen and, Isaiah Simmons, guys like that. I don't think people realize there's only 2 tackles signed in this roster right now. Or two linebackers, excuse me. And I feel like they definitely are going to need to target a linebacker. They'll need to target a center.
You think they'd bring Alexander back? I do.
You see, I don't know for sure. I really don't. I think Quan could come back, but none of those guys that are unrestricted free agents are guaranteed to be back. You always have to operate with that assumption.
Right.
And if that's the case, then it's Chaz Surratt and CJ Mosley. And I'm sorry, Surratt might be a guy they like a lot on the practice squad, but I'm not making him my starter. So, I think you look at the guys in the draft for sure. And then I think in addition to that, center, Patterson from Notre Dame would be a good option there. But wide receiver, I know not a lot of people would agree because there's nobody coming off the books next year except for Jeff Smith, who's a restricted free agent. And I believe, it's just Jeff Smith. So 2014, though, they'll no longer have Mims. They'll no longer have Darius. They'll no longer have Corey Davis. I'll be honest, it might be unpopular opinion, but I'm not sold on Corey Davis. I know he played well in spurts, but I wouldn't mind trying to move on from Corey Davis. I like Mims, but I wouldn't bank on Mims. I think there's a guy, Johnston from TCU. I haven't gotten really into the draft, and trust me, I will.
We all will.
I think Johnston with Garrett Wilson would be nuts. You're talking about a true number 1 receiver that can high point the football, can play it at all its angles, can box out defenders like a power forward. And he does a really nice job of playing through contact, which is something that I really like in college. But he also has the speed. So he's a big, bodied receiver around 6'3", 6'4", played in some big time games at TCU. I feel like you get a guy like Carr in the building, you go out and you get him, a Johnston from TCU, you put him with Garrett Wilson, you put him with Elijah Moore in the slot, maybe you have them all interchangeable, makes you stronger. You got a good tight end room. I really like the combination of Tyler Conklin, CJ Uzomah, plus I'm, very high on Jeremy Ruckert's long-term future.
He played well that last week. I just wish we would have seen it more throughout the season.
Oh, I know. But you see what I mean? I think if they go out and they get another receiver, I think it really complements their offense. And let's be honest here. If they're adding another offensive coordinator, you don't think the offensive coordinator is going to push them to draft some offensive guys? I 100% believe so. And I think they're going to move on from Corey Davis. They'll try to anyway.
Well, they will. They're able to cut him with a lot of cap savings. But, Jake, my issue, and Terrence, I'm getting to you. I see your hand up. My issue with the whole Jets offensive coordinator situation, you're targeting these coordinators, and they have no clue who the heck the quarterback is going to be. And that's a major issue because you could say all you want, we're going to go hard after Derek Carr. These coordinators that are wanted all over the place are going to say, Why would I do that when I could potentially go to LA and coach Justin Herbert, or go, you know what I mean, or know who I'm going to have if I go to the Texans in a quarterback we're going to draft. There's a chance an OC comes here and we're looking at a quarterback competition between Ryan Tannehill and Zach Wilson. Who the hell, what hot commodity is going to want that?
That's certainly true. I think the big thing here is when you're in those interviews, you're letting them know, like, hey, this is what we're looking at. I don't know if they make them sign an NDA or whatever. I don't know how that whole thing works, but I know you got to show your hand at least some point when you're interviewing these guys. And for an offensive coordinator, if you're not asking the question of what the plan is at quarterback, then they're not going to hire you to begin with. So I'm sure it's been asked, and I'm sure they probably said we're looking at guys like Carr. We're looking at, we like Zach Wilson. So if you're somebody that believes that, you can develop him and all that, great, because we're not done with him. And that's the thing. I think you go out and you get a Carr, and I don't think you have to be done with Zach Wilson either. If you start to see him progressing, maybe you trade Carr. It's one of those things. I personally think they would stick with Carr if they trade for him, but I'm saying it opens up the possibility. He's only going to be, 32 next year, so plenty of time. And I just think any offensive coordinator that is taking that job has an idea of where they're going. So I totally understand what you're saying. One thing I'll say is this, Raheem Morris of the Rams, defensive coordinator, if he gets the Colts job, he's probably bringing over an offensive guy on the Rams staff, to be the OC. Brandon Staley is very interested, from what I've been told, with 3 Rams assistants to take over that offensive coordinator job. Sounds like he wants kind of new blood, fresh blood, whatever, a guy that hasn't called the plays. So that kind of puts you in the clear. So if you go out and, like I said, you get Joe Brady, here's the thing. Going back to, kind of bringing this all back to where it was, Brady worked with, Bridgewater, and he worked with Darnold. I think most of these candidates would sign up for a Tannehill, as crazy as that sounds. Mm-hmm. So I think you pitch to them, the big picture is we want Derek Carr. The worst case scenario, we're sticking with Zach Wilson, and you need to be the guy that can develop him. And the middle scenario is, like a Tannehill, a Garoppolo, a Baker Mayfield, somebody like that. And I think the offensive coordinator, whoever they choose, is going to know full well what they're coming into. But I also think this is a good opportunity for them because They see the pieces there. They see a 1,000-yard rookie, receiver. They see what would have been a 1,000-yard rookie rusher. They got a good tight end room. They got offensive line talent. They got a defense that's going to back them up. So that's a big thing there. And I think this is a way more valuable job. If you ask me, I don't care how this sounds. I think Darrell Bevell's an idiot for not taking this job. I don't care. I think he was dumb for not taking this job. If he doesn't get a head coaching job,
that's what I think he's trying to get.
Yeah, I think he's in over his head. Because let's not forget how poor his other offenses were in the past. He has one good year, now everyone's like, oh, Darrell Bevell. Yeah, I'm not sold on him. So, I think he made a mistake, and I think this is a valuable job. And I don't agree with the way some of the media has played it as a job that, I don't know, because this might not be a good. No, this has a lot of pieces. I mean, I can understand if you want to make the argument having Zach Wilson there is a distraction in general, because it's like, what am I doing here? What are we accomplishing? But if they go and their plan is to get Derek Carr, then I'm not going to worry as an offensive coordinator about really developing Zach Wilson. I'm going to prioritize running my offense with a guy that's proven he can throw 4,000 yards and 30 touchdowns in the season.
All right, Terrence, we're going to get to you, and then we're going to be wrapping the show up. Jake, thanks again so much for your time. Yeah, Terrence.
Yeah, thanks, Ray. Ray, I guess you guys have been discussing what I initially had my hand raised about, the fact that you got to put the cart before the horse, which is that we need an offensive coordinator first. And obviously everybody's trying to read the tea leaves and say, like, oh, well, whoever the offensive coordinator is, that's the indication of who the quarterback's going to be. Like when you consider somebody like Greg Olson, who, who has experience with Derek Carr, just to use an example. But like that, you guys just kind of touched base on that. But I guess
I actually like that.
Oh, okay, yeah, but then is Greg Olsen a good fit if it turns out to be Tannehill? Because Carr, you're hoping to get both in the deal, but if it doesn't work out, do we have the right coordinator? In the scenario you're talking about, if it's somebody like Garoppolo or less than that, where then you're considering whether it's that person or Zach Wilson beats him out in training camp, which leads me to the question I will ask now that you kind of covered some of this. Number one, I agree with you about the Johnson pick for TCU. I definitely would love to see it, especially if those top three tackles are gone. And I think someone mentioned, I know Dane Brugler also had a mock draft where all three of those tackles, Strinsky, Paris, and all those, and the other guy, I can't think of his name right now, were taken before number 13. But there's just been an article written by The Athletic, by Zach Rosenblatt, the beat writer for the Jets. And basically, to me, it's just a regurgitation of everything that he had written during the course of the year about because there's no nuggets about how Zach and Mike LaFleur interacted with each other. Other than LaFleur seems to have been frustrated even from last year with Zach. But my question to you, when you're talking about Zach and maybe him basically still having a chance here, aren't the Jets tipping their hand in a way by basically letting go of LaFleur? That not to say that they think he's the problem, but that basically they're saying in a way that we're getting some fresh ideas in here, and one of the ideas is, what do you think you can do with somebody like Zach Wilson? Obviously, getting a starting caliber quarterback, coming in, but also is part of the bargain. Also, tell me what you think you can do to make get Zach Wilson back to what we thought we were getting when we drafted him number 2.
I can already hear the head, not Saleh, but just a head coach in general, the thought process of that. Like, well, we don't look at Wilson as necessarily a distraction, for having a guy like, say, Carr. We feel like this makes us a better football team by having two guys that we trust at quarterback. And that scares the hell out of me, to be honest with you.
It scares the hell out of anybody, yep.
Yeah, I hate that. I understand any other position. We're strong at linebacker. We have 4 guys that we feel capable could start. Only 2 guys start, right? I don't want to hear that quarterback. Quarterback is a rhythm type of position, okay? I can't have a quarterback being platooned. I don't want to see Zach Wilson in packages. I don't need to see that. If you go out and you get a guy like Carr, I need to see Carr. But I do see what you're saying, Terrence, because there is that real possibility, like, hey, they're going to stick with Zach, and this is all, smokescreen. And basically what they did was they kind of tipped their hand and letting go of LaFleur. And Woody Johnson is just trying to keep Jets fans happy in the meantime by saying they're going to go big and, their quarterback away. And maybe Woody Johnson does believe in Zach Wilson. He believes, look, based on what I was hearing, it didn't sound like Saleh wanted to fire. It sounded like, Woody Johnson kind of went over his head and did the whole thing, right? He pushed this. So, that's one thing. The other thing is I hear a lot of Jimmy Garoppolo. And that was I think, perfect fit if LaFleur was there, because he was the passing game coordinator for 4 years under Shanahan, 3 years. But, Garoppolo and the connection doesn't make any sense anymore. I mean, it made sense when you were running an offense that you already knew.
Right.
If he has to come into another offense, that doesn't make any sense. So then you look at, I think Baker Mayfield makes sense in the fact that he's a more middle-tier option like Tannehill, because he has some of the same characteristics of Zach Wilson. He's a more refined Zach Wilson, if we're being honest, and he's won a playoff game. He actually helped lead that team, with a good defense, mind you, with the Browns to the playoffs, beat the Steelers. So you have a guy that's won big games. You have a guy that's played in the cold. He knows what it's like, but at the same time, he's not perfect. And we saw that. I saw that hands-on with the Rams. I mean, he had some moments, what he could be in that offense, but there were still games like the Seattle game, he threw that essentially game-sealing interception in overtime. He's still going to throw those. So, to me, the Jets need a guy who's not going to make those mistakes. And I feel like, Zach Wilson right now is not somebody that I trust hitting the layup throws. He can make the wow throws. He can make the crazy runs and all that. But he cannot make the layup throws to save his life. And that is what frustrated Mike LaFleur. Because LaFleur needs that. That's something Garoppolo does. Garoppolo does make those throws. But I don't understand him being connected after LaFleur's gone. And I don't see the connection aside from Salo was on the 49ers, Garoppolo was on the 49ers. I would be also interested, now that I'm thinking about this, the one thing that I could see is Garoppolo coming to the Jets if they went and got Chris Forster, who right now is the offensive coordinator and passing coordinator for the 49ers.
Yeah.
If he went to the Jets in the same role, they would be able to do it because it would be a promotion since they'd be making him a play caller. So keep that in mind. That is an option, and that is something that I would keep in mind. But I'll be honest, I'm very confident it's going to be Carr.
What do you think that contract's going to look like? Because when we start going over the numbers, if he's going to get 40, say 35 to 40 million a year, maybe a little less than that, if you're lucky, if he's willing to do something like that. But in all honesty, you're looking at a lot of money.
You're reworking that deal. Because there's a potential out in 2023, 1 year, $25 million, and it's only 5.6 in dead cap.
But Jake, if we look at it from a realistic standpoint, why would he accept a trade anywhere? He's going to get so much more money on the free agency market once he's cut. And remember, they have 3 days after the Super Bowl to cut him before all that money becomes guaranteed down the road.
No, I agree. I'm saying he's going to get cut. I'm at the point where I don't even think the Jets are going to have to trade him, and I think the Jets are going to sign him. I think that is what's going to happen. Because, here's the thing. It's New York. He played in Vegas. He played in Oakland, right? Where is he going to go? What is a better fit for Derek Carr right now? You talk about the Falcons.
Right, you come to an offense that's kind of ready-made to a little bit where you have Breece Hall, you got Wilson, Elijah Moore, you got the 2 tight ends. And when healthy, it's solid offensive line.
This is a resurgence. You see a team that was just about there. They went through some injuries, and they went 7-10 after only winning 4 games.
Mm-hmm.
They got a players coach in Saleh, right? They got a GM that's not afraid to make moves, is not afraid to go up and get his guys. So he could go and get you a weapon on the offensive side. I just think there's too much there. The defense that he's never had before, and it's a big market. I understand he was in Vegas, but he was in Oakland for most of his career. Now he goes to New York, and you could say, oh well, the Jets are the little brother to the Giants. Teams don't players aren't going to look at that. They're not going to look at it
right.
So they're going to look at it like, hey, I have a chance to expand my brand in the New York market, and I think it makes no sense for Carr to consider Atlanta. Because I understand people are talking about, oh, Atlanta makes a lot of sense because, you look at what they did this year. They got some pieces. Their defense is nowhere near as good as the Jets. Dean Pease also was their defensive coordinator. Are they going to keep that same defense? Are they going to switch it up? Their offense. They just traded away Calvin Ridley. He's going to be a Jaguar next year.
Yep.
So, on offense, yeah, you can say they have some weapons for sure. They got, a talented running back just like the Jets. They got a talented young receiver just like the Jets. But I don't feel like the Falcons are a quarterback away. In addition to that, I don't really like where the Falcons are in the NFC right now.
Mm-hmm.
So
right.
Then it's like, who else? The Titans? Why would he go to Tennessee? I guess, they have a defense
mm-hmm.
and they have, Derrick Henry, but what is Tennessee going to do for his brand? And that's the thing is if he's a free agent and Woody Johnson is this loud about it, they're going to go and get Derek Carr and they're going to get him some help too. And he doesn't even need much help. I do think they're a quarterback away, but I think they would draft a receiver for him. And I just think that it's one of those things where, you got to think in terms of Carr has only been with one team. Think about Stafford. He had only been with one team. He had been with the Lions.
Right.
And, I found out that Stafford was actually potentially going to get traded to the Panthers. It was actually getting really close. The 49ers had interest, but they were really sold on going after Deshaun Watson, and that whole thing fell through because you know what happened. But the Panthers were like the favorite. And Stafford basically steered the Lions in the direction to trade him to the Rams. So if he was a free agent, he would have gone to L.A. Well, L.A.'s a big market. He left Detroit. He went to L.A. Brady went to Tampa because he wanted to be in Tampa. He wanted to be in a warm climate. He wanted to get away from the Northeast. So, when people mention Brady for the Jets, it doesn't make sense. But there are guys that want certain things. And I think for Carr, it's kind of similar to Stafford. I think he wants to be in a bigger market. I think he wants to expand his brand. And so I think if that's the case, I think you got to go to the Jets. You got to go to a team that, one, the fan base will absolutely embrace Derek Carr. I mean, he will be a fan favorite from day one. And number two, this is somebody who, I'm not saying he doesn't want to put in the work, but this is one of those things where you go to the Jets and you already know there's not much to be done here. This team is almost there, as opposed to going to a team like, say, where his brother was with Houston. It's like, oh, I might want to live in Texas. I might want to follow in my brother's footsteps and play for that team. But, when are they going to win? When are they going to be competitive? The Titans are going to be in the same division as a resurgent Colts team. I believe they'll be back. And the Jaguars, they're looking like a decent team. So I think, the AFC East, yes, it's going to be a dogfight. But there's no reason why the Jets can't surpass the Dolphins. They can't surpass the Patriots. They compete with the Bills. I really believe that. And I think Carr will as well. And I think Carr's going to go there.
I agree with you. And last one, Steve, we're going to finish off with you. Just try to make it quick, and then we're going to bounce out of here. Jake, thanks so much for your time. I want to allow you to get a plug in really quick for everybody who's on YouTube watching and anybody who's in here or will listen to the recording. So, Steve, go ahead, and then we'll finish off with you, Jake.
Yeah, and again, Jake, thanks for being on. I don't know if anybody saw Dove Kleiman's piece today on Carr. Basically, I don't know if it was a smear piece or just highlighting some things that part of what fell apart was Carr became overly sensitive to McDaniels' criticism, or as another source is saying, McDaniels was equally abusive all over. And if there's any merit to that, well, then let's take Atlanta out of that because Arthur Smith is a hard ass. Okay? You see it on the sideline. He's got that reputation. It ain't going to fit there. By the way, Atlanta also has a young tight end who's pretty damn good, too.
I do a lot to get him.
But all else being equal, they talked originally about, Carr wanting a stable situation. Well, if the Jets are in it, take Washington off that because Ron Rivera could very well be on the hot seat. Take Tampa Bay off of that because if Bruce Arians pulls even further out, Bowles is dead man walking. We know what Todd Bowles is. Tampa now knows what Todd Bowles is. He's
a coordinator. That's what he is.
Yeah, that's all he is. And a damn good one, but that's it. So in terms of spots, yeah, maybe Tennessee makes sense. But, yeah, I think all else being equal, it's us or bust.
All right. I appreciate that. Steve, I agree with you. Jake, go ahead. Where can people find you, bro?
Well, once again, thank you so much for having me, Ray, Steve, Paul, everybody. It's been a pleasure talking with all of you guys. I always enjoy it. You can follow me on Twitter here at JK Bogan. All my stuff is in the bio, but if you're on YouTube right now, just type Jake Ellen Bogan into your search bar, and you'll find all of my content. I'm covering more NFL this year, but I also cover the Rams and the Jets, and I do some entertainment stuff as well as gaming on the YouTube channel. So got 2 Rams podcasts that probably no one in here is interested in, but yeah, that's what I have. But thank you again so much, Ray. I really appreciate it, man.
We got you, bro. And really quickly, a quick announcement. We got a great guest coming up in a couple of weeks. I just reached out to him, spoke with him. Former Super Bowl champion and was on the Jets fairly recently, so I'm going to hold that close to the vest. Tomorrow, we will be announcing who our favorite pick is to win the Super Bowl, and there is an awesome giveaway, if we're correct in our pick, that the fans will be going home with. So stay tuned to that. Check us out on Twitter at JetCastPod. Till next time, go Jets.